You didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
The energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, reppin' both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire, misunderstood. Cheer 'em all out, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. Rob hype on the mic, CP's the fire spark. Together they ignite, voices like the park. Fans dripped in jerseys, legacy bold. The Metropolitan story forever told. Turnstile spinning, the crowd floods the gates. This is family, no time for debates. Crack of the Batman, the roar never fades. Queens in the blood, it's how champions are made. Cheer 'em all out, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. 7-line swagger, vibes electric and wild. Mets legacy golden since I was a child. Orange crushed skies, let the battle ignite. Ride for the home team till the last fight.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on the channel and on X. And how sweet it is, Met fans, as the New York Mets did exactly what they needed to do at home to get back into this division race, to put some distance between them and the Cincinnati Reds for the wild card. And the New York Mets are flying high right now as a team. Finally, you seen it? Yes, yesterday was the day when I was like, holy shit. The New York Mets looked like an actual collaborative baseball team. You got the pitching. You got the clutch hitting. You got the embarrassment of the Phillies complaining about a boom mic and Beatty not being close to the batter's box or the on deck circle and all that craziness. And the New York Mets made the Phillies look like a bad team. And I said it over and over again, Mets fans. The Phillies aren't as good as everybody portrays them to be. The Mets were just so bad. And Citi Field has finally become what Truist Park has become to the New York Mets, the house of horrors. The Phillies cannot win at Citi Field. They just can't. And I love it. And I love it because I even said this to a friend. We played them Phillies 13 times. If the Mets would just win 13 games out of 162, beat the Phillies every freaking time. I cannot stand the Phillies. I can't stand their fans. And yes, they got on me yesterday as I called them out once again. And they're killing their team right now. They want Rob Thompson fired. They think this team is just not good enough. You hear it in their voices. They know this is the end of the road for the core of this team. Another year older for a lot of these guys. Zach Wheeler might not be the same anymore. Kyle Schwarber becoming a free agent. It is beautiful to see, Mets fans. Absolutely beautiful. The Mets needed to do one thing to remain in this race for the NL East, and they had to sweep the Philadelphia Phillies. This was the Philadelphia Phillies team that was playing a little bit better. They had a red-hot Schwarber and a red-hot JT Realmuto. You know what they did in this series? 0 for 24 in this series. That is how you beat the Phillies. 0 for 24 for the two hottest hitters coming into this series was Schwarber and was Realmuto, and they went 0 for 24. And we didn't have great pitching. Let's be honest about that. Manaea wasn't good. Senga wasn't good. And McLean was a beast yesterday. And we didn't have great pitching. It was the offense that took over games. And we haven't said that enough this year, but they did. 25 runs in this series They only hit 2 home runs, and they just bludgeoned them to death with base hits and doubles and 2-out RBIs. Was just a killer all series long. The New York Mets really did something that I'm not sure a lot of us thought that can happen. Let's be honest about that, right? We always have that pessimistic, thought process that, something's going to happen. Things might be going right, and then something happens, and then it just turns into shit. We all didn't feel like we were going to sweep the Phillies. We thought we could take 2 out of 3. I think the Mets were playing a little bit better, where we felt a little bit confident that we can win a series against the Phillies. But to sweep them, because the Phillies, let's be honest, guys, the Phillies needed to win one of these games in this 3-game series to basically put the division kind of out of conversation, put it out of reach. Even though there were still 29 games to go, you would be 6 out instead of 4 out. But even the bigger thing is that people keep on saying they're 4 out, they're 4 out. No, they're not. They're 3 out because the Mets, because of winning and sweeping this series, they won the tiebreaker for the season series. They won it. So that means they won the season series, they have the tiebreaker. So technically, we're 3 games out of the division. No matter what the Phillies do, they need to have one more win than we do to win the NL East or to get whatever playoff spot, whatever it might be. The fact of the matter is they need to be with it better than us by 1 game. And it's really nice to see. And I appreciate the fact that the New York Mets showed the biggest – this was the best series they played all year. Again, the starting pitching is still going to be a problem. Like let's not forget about that, because Kodai Senga and Shohei Minaya are pitching again, right? You can't throw McLean every day. You can't throw Tong every day, and who knows about Sproat. Shohei Minaya and Kodai Senga are getting starts again, and that when we get to their starts, we'll have to worry about that. We do have Clay Holmes today, coming off probably one of his better outings in a long time. We'll see what he does on short rest. We have no idea with that. That's concerning within itself about today's game. We will get into today's game for sure. But to see that the New York Mets finally felt like they put it all together, right? There was times in this game, right? Helsley giving up the 2-run homer to tie the game to Bader late in the game. Those are games the Mets lose 3 weeks ago. Easily lose. That game gets to extra innings and they'll lose the game. And the Mets won those games. And any type of adversity, usually the Mets would trip over themselves. That's the way it's been over the last couple of months. The Phillies, and I talked about this, their defense is not as good. Their defense is not good. They have a high swing rate. They chase a lot of pitches. They don't walk a lot, and they rely heavily on Kyle Schwarber and his dominance in games. And it's obvious, right? Harper did a little bit of damage, but not a lot. Wasn't a lot going for the Phillies in this series. They got embarrassed once again. Listen to their post game. I mean, they want to fire the manager. This team's in first place in the NL East. They're 4 games up on the NL East, right? By no means am I saying the Mets can win the division. It's very possible, because the Mets put themselves in position with 29 games to go to possibly have a chance of winning the division. Now, they still got to take care of business, because you can't sweep the Phillies and split against the Miami Marlins at home. You just can't. They're not the same team. They're not the same team as they were a month ago when they were red hot. They don't have their best hitter in Kyle Stowers, who is on the IL. This is an opportunity here for the New York Mets to get fat, to add to their win total, to basically, when we play the Reds in about a week and a half, that series might not matter too much. And that's what we're hoping for. The New York Mets need to continue to do what they have been doing over the last couple of series. They've been winning series, right? They won 3 out of the last 4 series. They've been playing better. The offense has scored over 7.5 runs per ball game, the best out of all the months this season. They're getting clutch hits from everybody. Name a player, they had a clutch hit in this series. That is how good they are. Now, the lineup is a little bit interesting, in my opinion, but What I like about it is the fact that Carlos Mendoza knows that Lindor's hitting, Soto's hitting, Alonso, Nimmo, Vientos, McNeil, Beatty, and he sneaks in Cedric Mullins in the 8th spot. I'm going to tell you why I love this. The one guy that kind of is somewhat behind where the Mets are right now offensively is Cedric Mullins. I don't care what anybody says. You want to see Tyrone Taylor, and I told you I'm a big advocate of playing the defensive player over the offensive player, especially when the guy's going to be batting 7th, 8th, or 9th in this lineup. I don't care about their offense. I don't. Defense matters. And we've seen it enough where Tyrone Taylor played the last couple of games because Cedric Mullins hasn't been hitting enough to warrant to play, but the defense is so much more important right now, especially in center field. I love the fact that Cedric Mullins is in this game, right? The Mets should win despite Cedric Mullins in this lineup. But what I love about what Carlos Mendoza is doing here, he's like, Cedric, listen, the team is rolling right now. The offense looks really good. We want you to be a part of this, right? They made a trade at the trade deadline to acquire you to help this team, to be a productive guy on this roster. You can't bury Cedric Mullins. You just can't. I still think he's going to be crucial down the stretch, and I think that you're going to see why I think Stearns – I know why it was the cheaper option compared to Luis Robert and Cedric Mullins, but I still think Cedric Mullins is the type of guy that is still going to play better than what he's doing right now offensively. I still feel that way. I still think he's going to – he's going to show a little bit more pop. I still think his speed's going to play. I don't like him defensively. He's okay defensively, but again, he's not Tyrone Taylor. But I do think it's a great idea by Carlos Mendoza because everybody's joining the club. Hayden Sanger in the series joined the club against the Phillies. Everybody except Cedric Mullins got everything, has done something in this series offensively. I like the fact that Cedric Mullins is back in the lineup at least for one day. I want him to feel a part of this, right? He's a part of this team. If you like it or not, it's too late. He's a part of this team. He ain't going anywhere. You're not releasing him. You can't trade him. He ain't going to the minors. He's going to be on this roster. You can't bury a guy like this. This is a guy that's used to playing every day, and you can't lose him. You can't lose him. As much as he's probably a team player, and you heard that he's a good guy. He's a team player. He's with this team. He looks like he feels like a guy who's good for the clubhouse, but you can't bury him. And I was saying it to one of my friends. I forgot who it was. We were texting earlier today. And I was like, you know what? It's a good time to put Mullins in this lineup. Now, I didn't think Mendoza was going to do it, to be quite honest with you. I thought Tyrone Taylor, somebody was going to play center field other than Cedric Mullins. But I like it because you are facing the Miami Marlins. And we all know about the Miami Marlins late in the year with the New York Mets. It doesn't matter who's on this team, who's in a lineup, who's pitching. It's the Marlins. We all know how that goes. But the Mets are better than the Marlins. The Marlins don't have their best hitter. They're using Adam Mazar, who is a guy who's kind of like an opener. They haven't played well. There's an opportunity here where the Mets should win these games. Cedric Mullins should not be the difference maker of us winning or losing this game or in this series. It just can't happen. It shouldn't be the case. But we also have to understand that it is baseball. Shit happens. Things happen. Bad teams beat good teams all the time. We just watched the Nationals take 2 out of 3 against the Mets. It happens. So, but I feel like the way the Mets offense has been hitting, and basically 1 through 7, every one of these guys are hitting right now. Some are red hot. Some are probably getting warmer. And some are doing just pretty good. But they're all seeming like they're doing something to benefit the team offensively. It's a perfect time to put Cedric Mullins in this lineup and try to get him going a little bit because Cedric Mullins is a solid ball player. Not a great ball player, not a difference maker, but he's a solid ball player. He's a professional, right? He always hustles. I feel like he always hustles, no matter if it's a ground ball or not, he hustles. He takes that extra bag when he has to, and I feel like he's a solid ball player. Again, not my favorite type of player, not a difference maker, not a game changer, but a solid player. And those guys, I feel like, can help this roster in different ways. And that's okay. Right? He's probably not going to make a great defensive play, even though he has done it in Baltimore, but he's not going to be Tyrone Taylor defensively. We all know that. But I feel like you do got to get his back going a little bit, because if it comes to very important games, Tyrone Taylor is going to play center field more often than not. But what you don't want is an ice-cold guy like Cedric Mullins, who hasn't played, and a guy who's used to starting every day and getting 4 at-bats every day. You can't sit him on the bench and say, hey, we need you in a pinch hit appearance late in the game, and he's ice-cold and he hasn't played in 4 days. You can't do that. So to get him going a little bit, I thought it was crucial, especially in this series. You did your job against the Phillies. You got back into this division race. You gained a couple of games on the Reds within that time frame. And now it's about solidifying your playoff spot, having a chance with 29 games to go to win a division that you might have thought was out of hand on Monday, but it's not no more. So what is your other goal? The other goal is maintain your playoff position. You're comfortable right now. What is it? 4.5 game lead for the Mets in the wild card. It's a great opportunity for the Mets to get other guys going right now. Cedric Mullins is that guy. He's probably the only guy that's not really doing anything offensively. Get him going. I think it's crucial to get him going, because if you got every guy, every position player, at least feeling like they're a part of this offense, it's a great problem to have, because no matter what Mendoza does with the lineup, everybody's hitting in some capacity. And that's huge for the New York Mets, in my opinion. When you score 7.5 runs per game, almost a month now, this offense, I'm not saying 7.5 runs. That's kind of insane what they've done, but they kind of, we deserve to see that for this Mets offense, because they were scoring 3.5, 4, 3.5. They're going back and forth, never really getting to that 5 over runs per game. And that was the frustrating part about this lineup. Scoring 7.5 runs per game for almost a month now is something that is probably not sustainable. Let's be honest about that. But if you can kind of level out here to like 6 runs per game, you're in a good spot. Now, obviously, everybody's excited for Jonathan tomorrow on Friday night against the Marlins. Everybody's excited about that. Now, I love how some people are kind of there's some reporters and there's some media people that want to calm the expectations down a little bit, because McLean has been so good. And Jonathan was kind of the top of the top prospects pitching-wise for us. And McLean kind of like changed that a little bit with, making history, being the first Mets starting pitcher in their history to win their first 3 games is outstanding nonetheless. And, he's just been great. Like, I don't think anybody could expect him to pitch better. Like, that was a big boy game yesterday. You know what I keep on saying? Put on the big boy pants, right? He didn't just put on the big boy pants. He made those balls hang. Like, he's shown, like, I am not coming out of this game in the 8th inning. You are not scoring a run. And I got to say another thing. The way, and you can tell this team is coming together as a team. I'm talking about chemistry-wise. I want to tell you why. Because in that 8th inning, when it kind of was almost a possibility the Phillies might score a run here, and he might have not, McLean might have not got out of that 8th inning. What Juan Soto did and Brandon Nimmo did with nobody out, when they caught those balls and throw laser beams to home plate to stop the run from scoring, to keep the shutout from McLean. That's the situation when you've seen Juan Soto have done it before, where he'll just throw to second base, and the smart play in baseball sense was to throw to second base, keep the runner from getting into scoring position with less than 2 outs, because you had a 6-0 lead. That run is meaningless because you still got a 5-run lead if that's scored. One, if it's smart baseball and you talk about baseball IQ, you throw it to second base. You don't even care about throwing home. That run doesn't mean nothing. What you don't want to happen is to start a big inning. But you saw the team basically get around and have McLean's back because he was pitching so well. It would have, I mean, you would have won the game most likely, but you wanted him to get that shutout because he pitched so well, and the players felt that too. And Juan Soto could have thrown it to second base, keep that runner at first base, but he said, "Screw that! I'm throwing it home. I'm keeping this shutout." And then Mr. Brandon Nimmo, Mr. Noodle Arm, thrown the hardest ball home he's ever thrown in his life as a New York Met. He threw a bullet to home plate. So that just shows you right there how important this game was to each individual player and how important it was to keep that shutout for Nolan McLean because he pitched so well and basically dominated the lineup of the Philadelphia Phillies. That is how you see him. When people always talk about, oh, Juan Soto don't care, that was Juan Soto caring yesterday. Now, maybe he hasn't cared for a while. It was some games. But he cared yesterday at least. That was obvious. And when you saw that, you're like, oh, okay. All right, we're in the game here. That you're up 6-0. Some guys kind of like, wander into the atmosphere with their minds. They're kind of just out of it. The game's pretty much in hand. Some guys are just not focused enough. Those guys were focused. Not only they knew this series was important to have the division remain a conversation, but to have this happen in the 8th inning where you see Nolan McLean, you saw him getting a little bit tired, right? But he felt like he was not coming out of that game. He was going to finish, and we all knew he was going to get Bader out. Like, you just felt it. That after Juan Soto catches the ball in right field for the first out, throwing a laser to home plate, keeping that run from scoring, then Nimmo doing the same thing in left field, you knew McLean was not going to let Bader get that run in. And sure enough, 8 great innings from Nolan McLean, the best 3 starts in 3 wins that the Mets history never happened before, where a rookie has won his first 3 games coming up for the New York Mets. That is history. Now, again, there might be a bump in the road at some point, right? You never know. But you couldn't ask for a better start. I mean, with the Mets pitching history, with Seaver, with Nolan Ryan, with Kuzman, with all these guys, we know Doc, all these guys, not one guy has done what Nolan McLean has done. And that is awesome. Again, does that mean he's going to be the next coming of Jacob deGrom? I don't know. Right? I'm not gonna, put all that pressure on this kid or call him Cowboy Ohtani. I don't like that name. I think he deserves something other than Ohtani. To be quite honest with you, I think the biggest fraud in baseball is Ohtani when it comes to everything outside of baseball, as we all know. Muted? Yes, I did want them all traded. You know why I want them all traded? Because when they were supposed to come up to help this team, they did it. That's why. That is why. So the fact that I wanted them traded was the fact that they weren't helping this team. And by the way, when I was saying that, it was June. It was July. It was the trade deadline when the Mets needed starting pitching. I think everybody forgot that they didn't bring these kids up until, a week and a half ago, or at least Nolan McLean. So, yeah, I'd rather get guys that are actually going to help this team than keep them in the minors and waste away. The Mets needed these guys in June. Like, these guys are ready. Like, you could tell Nolan McLean was ready. Like, you don't have to wait until 110 innings in the minors to tell me he's not ready. He could have came up with 75 innings when the team needed them with the injuries and the bad performances from their rotation. Yeah, that's a fact. And I admit it. But at the same time, these guys did not help us because Stearns didn't want to do it for service time, for rookie status, for draft picks, for whatever, everything that he cared about for not bringing them up other than winning. That's why it pissed me off. Because if you're not using them to help this team, use them to get somebody that can help this team, right? We are very lucky that the June that the Mets had and the July that the Mets had and some of August didn't wipe them out of this playoff opportunity. Because I can guarantee you, if June, July, and parts of August was the reason why the Mets did not make the playoffs, nobody would give a shit about Nolan McLean, Jonah Tong, Brandon Sproat, or anybody else that might help this team down the stretch. Nobody would give a shit. Nobody would care if the Mets are out of a playoff spot right now because they haven't played well in 3 months and Nolan McLean is mowing everybody down. Nobody would care. Nobody would care. But Easy, come on. Seriously? You don't know if McLean was really ready? Seriously. So from 75 innings to 100 innings, you're not going to know. They even said the poise on the mound, the demeanor on the mound, the aura he has on the mound. They've said it. They know. We know why they didn't bring him up. Like, let's not act like David Stearns cared about winning. Let's not act like, let's stop giving David Stearns credit. He don't deserve it. There was never a plan for the New York Mets to bring up these kids. David Stearns' plan to use all these has-beens, reclamation projects, and big question marks failed. He failed. It's okay that he failed. But he also failed at the trade deadline. And he's lucky that these kids come up, at least Nolan McLean has come up and pitched outstanding, because if they didn't, everybody would be talking about the deadline again and what you didn't do in the offseason. And Alex, it's not about knowing more than David Stearns. Let's not act like this was his plan. Like, we all know it wasn't his plan. Yeah, bro, I don't think it was the plan. How was it if it was the plan, they would have been up here in June. Let's not act like the plan was that. It wasn't. Like, it's not. Because if it was only about winning and that was the plan, they should have been up here in June. There was no more of a need prior to now than June. There was no Manaea. Senga was hurt. Frankie Montas was just about to come back. There was a ton of issues with this rotation. You would throw in Hageman and Waddell and openers all over the place. There was no bigger need than that month. Muted, that wasn't the plan. Stop it. You guys are nuts. This isn't the plan. That wasn't the plan. If it was the plan, that would have been talked about in spring training. They never brought up these pitchers. They were talking about the position players, the Mauricios, the Beatties, the Acuñas, Jet Williams. That's what they were talking about. They were not talking about these kids. By the way, none of them took the jump at that moment last year. They were signs of Jonah Tong and Nolan McLean and Brandon Sproat. But they took a major jump in the first couple of months this year. Big jumps. Big jump. Again, if it's all about winning, the guys should have been up here. At least one of them should have been up there to help this rotation in June. It's all about the draft picks. It's all about the rookie status, the service time. Like, it's not. Like, stop giving Stearns credit for something that he did not plan for. How did he plan for it when he basically brought Frankie Montas in for $17 million, gave $20+ million to Sean Manaea, paid Clay Holmes to be from a bullpen arm to a starter, and you're going to tell me that this guy was planning for these kids to come up, even one of them? Like, we all know David Stearns had no other choice. If he didn't bring these kids up, that was all everybody was going to talk about. And oh, by the way, bringing Jonah Tong and Nolan McLean up might not be enough. And what if it's not enough to get into the playoffs or win in the playoffs? It's probably going to get us into the playoffs. Like, even the Mets, with the terrible rotation they had, still never lost the playoff spot. So that's kudos to the team itself. But, and Easy, I was just going to say that. Now I don't care about the plan. Because the other thing that I was concerned about was we were talking about, are these kids going to have restrictions, innings limits, pitch count limits, right? McLean has it. I don't think Jonah Tong's going to have that. They pitch 6-7 innings, seems like, every time out in the minors. I think they're worried about Brandon Sproat's innings, because why else would you put him in the bullpen in the minors? They might be a little concerned about him. But now that they clearly let Nolan McLean go, and they probably have a kind of a soft pitch count limit, like 95 pitches, like you heard that on the broadcast. That's kind of like where they would like to take him out. But they clearly don't have innings or pitch count restrictions, which is another thing I cared about. Don't bring these kids up and take them out in the 5th inning. It made no sense. And they didn't, and they're not. So that's another thing that goes out the window. So that's a good sign. But again, desperate times call for desperate measures. David Stearns didn't have a choice. He had to bring these guys up, especially at the moment where everybody thought they would have to bring them up because the service time is still there, the rookie status, the draft pick is still an option, it's still part of it. If you don't bring them up then you're clearly doing a disservice to this organization. Yeah, Alex, that's probably true. That's probably true. That he probably didn't sign no expensive old pitchers because of that, but let's not act like he knew how these guys were going to pitch. The same way we didn't know how they're going to pitch, he didn't know. Like, I don't care about minor league numbers. Those don't mean nothing to me at all. I think we should know that by now. Jacob deGrom wasn't our top pitching prospect. He had good numbers in the minors. He got the opportunity against the Yankees in his first major league start and pitched outstanding. I care what they do at the big league level. I don't care about minor league stats. I just don't. I don't. But you can see McLean not have any worry on that mound. He is confident in his ability. And that's nice. And oh, by the way, doing what McLean did on regular rest, oh my God. Regular rest. Because Showman I couldn't do it. Kodai Senga couldn't do it. McLean did it. No problem. Easy. Now we got Mr. Clay Holmes, as Easy's talking about, in a start where he pitched longer than he has since June, coming back on regular rest. Today, what are we going to get from Clay Holmes? I just hope that, because again, McLean saved this bullpen yesterday. Saved it because they had nowhere to go yesterday. We heard after the game that Diaz might have not have been available. Rogers could have been available, but probably not. You would have been having, it would have been a Stanek type. I'm sorry, not Rogers. I'm sorry. Rogers was available. But, I mean, Raley was available. Stanek was probably the other option. There wasn't many options to go to. So it is very interesting to see that the New York Mets had nowhere to go yesterday with the bullpen. And I talked about it on the pregame. 6 innings was so much a necessity from Nolan McLean. 7 innings, I even talked about it. 7 innings is a godsend because you can figure out the next 6 outs. But to go 8 innings was just, I mean, music to everybody's ears. Like, you could not have expected that. I thought 7 innings was a possibility. 6 innings for sure. And, you know, who knows what would happen. We know we were playing a desperate Phillies team there that kind of looked like they were scared to play that game yesterday. And I love it. And I think we all loved it. So saving the bullpen yesterday helps out today because we have no idea what Clay Holmes is going to give us after his longest outing since the early parts of June on a regular rest. We all know Minaya failed. We know Kodai Senga failed, and the Mets overcame those 2 starts for the game 1 and game 2 of that series against the Phillies. So now that you have somewhat of a available bullpen, like you'll have Rogers available, you'll probably have Diaz. You'll have Diaz available, depending on, you know, probably most guys, not all, but most of these guys. You know, Helsley is available, but nobody wants to see him. But again, you can't bury him either. I think you got to throw him in spots like, honestly, you know what's the spot today? I don't think Clay Holmes is probably going to go more than 5 innings. I just think that his last outing now on regular rest, I just think he's not. Now, again, I'm not saying he's not going to pitch well in those 5 innings, but you know what's a good spot for Ryan Helsley? Throwing him right after Clay Holmes in the 5th or 6th inning. Wherever Clay Holmes comes out of the game, I would throw Ryan Helsley. Now, you hope that you have a decent lead that, you know, Helsley can't blow it, but I would throw him there because make no mistake about this, guys. The Mets bullpen needs Ryan Helsley to figure things out. This was supposed to be a Rogers 7th, a Helsley 8th, and a Diaz 9th, and a Gregory Soto in that 6th inning. That's what this was supposed to be. That was the whole point of the deadline for the bullpen arms. That was supposed to be the path to Diaz. Ryan Helsley needs to figure things out. The Mets have to figure him out. I don't care how you do it. You got to figure him out because you can't bury him. He's got too good of an arm to bury him in this bullpen. You can't keep on going to, guys, like Gregory Soto, who's clearly been overused, but he's our best pitcher, our best bullpen arm for a while. He's finally kind of hit a bump in the road, but he's been very good for us. You need Helsley to step it up. You can't, as Gregory Soto kind of falls away from the circle of trust a little bit, you can't have two of your main acquisitions for this bullpen out of your circle of trust. It's going to be very hard to navigate a bullpen with Helsley being bad and Soto being bad, and you hope Raley and Rogers, you can't pitch them every day. Got to give him breaks, and the Mets don't like pitching Raley on back-to-back days, so Raley's probably not available today. So I think I agree, committee. He's been so bad, and I just don't understand it. Now, I know Mendoza said he's not tipping his, well, he thinks he's not tipping his pitches. It's more about execution, and he kind of called out Helsley, which I like. But yeah, it's not. Maybe it is tipping pitches, and the Mets haven't figured it out yet, which is not good. But if he is tipping the pitches, because they're not swinging at his slider, they're just waiting around for that fastball. And I don't care. You know how major league guys are. It doesn't matter if you throw 104. If they're looking for a fastball, the hitter, they're going to hit it. It's just that simple. And that's what they're doing right now. And then anytime he throws that slider over the plate, he's hanging it and it's batting practice. So they got to get Helsley right. And you can't bury him. You can't. Because this bullpen's not going to be good enough. And you can't keep on again, we're still in this stretch of games during that 16-game stretch of no off days where you got to figure things out. You still got 4 against the Marlins and 3 in Detroit. You got 7 more games to go here to navigate with guys going through normal rest. So you got to have more guys available in the bullpen, and there's going to be times when Helsley's going to have to pitch in a big spot, even if it's the 6th inning or the 7th inning. He's going to have to. There's going to be guys not available, and you got to go to Stanek. You got to go to Helsley. You can't bury these guys. You just can't. Every one of these guys are so crucial right now to the bullpen that the pitching seems to get a little stabilized with Nolan McLean and what he's done. You hope David Peterson just continues to do what he does, and you hope Jonah Tong tomorrow pitches even close to what Nolan McLean. That's a big ask, but let's say he's very good. But not McLean, but very good. So you got 3 guys you can probably go to and feel confident in every time they hit the rubber on that mound. Now, if you can get Minaya or Senga to get right, at least one of them, now you're talking about a rotation that you can actually have a little confidence in. Because I still don't have enough confidence in this rotation. Like, honestly, why do I want to see Minaya and Senga in game 1 and 2 of a playoff series? I'd rather have David Peterson and Nolan McLean, to be quite honest with you. And without even seeing Jonah Tong pitch at the major league level, I probably trust him more than Minaya and Senga. We all know how I feel about Senga. And Minaya is a disappointment, unfortunately. I like Senga a lot. I like Minaya a lot. But he's a big disappointment right now. He really is. And Brad, don't get me started about the Cowboys and Micah Parsons getting traded to the Green Bay Packers. I'm not again, my season's already over. Like, yay, football season's over. Like, that whole Family Guy Met thing where, oh, here's the first pitch and the season is over. That kind of is what's going on with Cowboy fans right now with the New York Mets, with the Dallas Cowboys and trading Micah Parsons, their best player, basically. So, yeah, that was a good documentary. I don't know if you guys seen it. You don't have to be a Cowboys fan to watch that America's Team documentary about the Cowboys. Now, of course, I'm gonna watch it. I love it, but I'm a Cowboys fan. But that was an awesome documentary. They really go into depth. Now, it makes me hate Jerry Jones a little bit more than I already do. But, man, I mean, this couldn't make Giants fans any happier. Like, Dart looks like a guy that he's confident. He looks like a good quarterback. I'm sorry we're talking about football here, but we're a week away here until football starts. So it's, my season's over. Like, I already know this, right? Dak Prescott's going to win us some games in the regular season like he always does. And if the Cowboys actually try to actually find a way to get into the playoffs, we know they're going to fail because that's what they do. But they're not making the playoffs. And sorry, I saw people talking about it in the comment. I just had Cowboys. God damn it. Jerry Jones. Like, you won in the 90s and you were a big boy and you made the Cowboys America's team again. They're a team in the NFL now. So I don't know. All right, let's talk about this game. The lineup today, again, we talked about Cedric Mullins, and I do like this move. With the majority of this lineup hitting, Cedric Mullins needs to be a part of this. Right? You don't make this acquisition to sit him on the bench and not play him at all. As I said, I rather would have not gotten a center fielder and try to get at least some type of back-end rotation arm at the very least, other than a center fielder. But you got a center fielder. It is what it is. He's got to be a part of this. And I think you need to get him going. And that's the important part right there with Cedric Mullins. Good sign for him. Because I do think Cedric Mullins is a solid enough player where he could be beneficial to this team. I do think that he's going to be more better offensively than we've seen. Not average-wise, but I think he's going to show a little bit of pop. And I do think he's going to be a guy that we're going to be talking about down the stretch where he gets some clutch hits. I think he's going to be important to this team. I truly believe that. Again, the rest of the lineup, what can we say, right? I do like the fact that they're playing Sanger a little bit more, only because, with the news of Francisco Alvarez, if you haven't heard, he broke his left pinky on his left hand. Got hit by a pitch in his rehab start, trying to come back, and it's like, what a rough, like, this guy needs boxing gloves to get up to the plate. Like, it's crazy to me. Now, first, he needs to know how to slide in second base. Like, again, stop slide. You're a catcher. Stop sliding head first into second base. We know you're a hustler, right? Alvarez is. We never said Alvarez is lazy. Now, sometimes we say he's lazy behind the plate, but I think it's his stance that he fixed. But we know he's a hustler. I'd rather you go feet first than belly flop into second base and obviously hurting your hand and your thumb and getting a sprained UCL. Like, I understand you want to be safe at second base or at another base, but you were playing so well that at the time, everybody was like, this lineup's going to be in trouble without the resurgence of Alvarez. Now, we've actually hit a lot better without Alvarez. And I truly think that Met fans kind of forget that the Mets were outstanding offensively without the production from Francisco Alvarez last year. And a lot of his lack of production this year was part of the problem. But I don't think now you always want Alvarez in this lineup, especially the way he's been hitting. It's going to help. But right now, all these guys are hitting. And again, if you're going to worry about the 8th hitter and the 9th hitter in this lineup, you know who's not doing the job. The boys up top. So I do like Hayden Sanger because, again, Luis Torrens, that hand that kind of is irritating him a little bit, take care of him. Because there's no guarantee Alvarez comes back, because there is a possibility he could come back, even with the broken pinky. You can't trust that Alvarez is going to come back and do what he did prior to when he came back. We don't know that. So you can't afford for Luis Torrens to get, hurt and, Sanger is our starting catcher. Now, it could be worse. Again, Sanger shouldn't be the difference between his offense scoring runs or not. Now, they're going to get opportunities here where these guys are going to come up with runners in scoring position and guys on base. It's just baseball. We know how that goes. But again, the guys at the top need to do their jobs. 1 through 7 right now needs to do their jobs. Cedric Mullins and Sanger shouldn't be having tons of men on base when they're coming to the plate. If that's the case, that means other guys ahead of them are failing. That's the bigger problem, not the guys that are the worst hitters in your lineup in the bottom of the order. At times they have to come through, but you can't count on those guys to do most of the damage. It happens every now and then, as we've seen a couple of days ago, that, they took care of business, but that's rare. That happens once every couple of weeks, once a week, maybe if you're lucky. So I do like the fact that Cedric Mullins is in this lineup. We know how good Vientos has been, McNeil has been, Beatty has been, even Brandon Nimmo yesterday or the other day getting a walk-off hit, saying, talking about Brett Beatty, remember his name. He's going to be here a long time. Nimmo basically saying Beatty ain't going nowhere. So it's going to be interesting, man. It is going to be very, very interesting. Yeah, fake hands. I don't care what, they need to put a pad on make him wear a pad in. Because, I mean, you can't do anything sliding into second base and belly flopping. Like, he doesn't know how to slide. That was obvious. Like, I don't know why you try to slide head first and you basically plopped on your right side and you basically slide inside. Like, Jesus. Like, this is the problem with baseball nowadays. They don't teach anybody anything. And, I remember sliding drills in high school. Shit, Little League. High school, definitely college. Like, you learn how to slide. You used to do sliding drills. Your ass used to hurt for doing so many sliding drills every time in practice. That was like the end of practice for my practices. Was sliding drills. You used to do like 20 slides from in second, third, home. Like, my ass used to hurt after practice because you used to slide so damn much and do all those drills. It's important. Now, as a catcher, you shouldn't be sliding head first because that's a danger a problem waiting to happen. But we'll see. We will see. So, Clay Holmes tonight, regular rest. Most innings he's pitched in a couple of months now. What are we going to get? I don't know. I don't think anybody can definitively say that Clay Holmes is going to go 6 or 4. I honestly don't know. Like, when is he going to get tired? Because with a somewhat rested bullpen because of yesterday and the masterful job by Nolan McLean, what do? Do you take him out with the first sign of struggles, or do you push him just like he did in his last start? Do you push him? Because if you push him, I like pushing him because of the fact that you got to see these guys do it, because they're not going to get any, you're not going to hold their hands during the end of the season when you need wins or in the playoffs. You got to figure it out here. But you are facing the Marlins. Do you push them? They don't have their best hitter in the lineup. Do you push Clay Holmes? Now, the score is going to probably dictate how that's going to happen. Or, if the Mets are winning by 5 runs, do you push Clay Holmes to go 6 innings? Dare I say 7 innings? That is going to be something that is going to be I'm going to be watching for that. We will see. Brandon, I agree. 5 or 6 innings, I take that. Like I said, you should be scoring runs. I know the pitching has been pretty decent for the Marlins, but this guy has over a 6 ERA. There should be no reason why we're trailing in this game. If we're trailing in this game, it's either the offense is not scoring runs or Clay Holmes is giving up runs. This is an opportunity for Clay Holmes to dominate a lineup that's not very good. This is his opportunity here. Dwayne, I've said that for a while, but again, he is at the moment, and we can't do anything about that. Now, he's done I would say a slightly above average job for what situation he was put into as a bullpen guy, pitching a hell of a lot more innings than he ever had in his career. I think he's done a pretty good job considering the situation the Mets put him in. Now, unfortunately, we needed him to do a lot more over the last couple of months because of our pitching problems. He really hasn't. But what he is now is okay. If he's a 5-inning pitcher, but keeping your team in the ballgame, giving 2 runs or less, I don't care at this point. Because we're supposed to be getting better starts from other guys. Now, Manaea and Senga have not. With Nolan McLean looking like a beast, and hopefully Jonah Tong pitching well, and David Peterson doing what he's been doing, now you got 3 guys that you can trust on any given 5th day. You can deal with Clay Holmes going 5 innings on a regular basis. The reason why it wasn't, I didn't like what he was doing was because they were putting way too much trust in a guy that hasn't done it with all the problems they have in the rotation. But if the rotation starts to pitch better, if Peterson does what he does, McLean continues, Tong pitches the way we hope he pitches, then it's a lot easier to deal with Clay Holmes 5 innings and a couple of runs on a every 5th day basis. So we'll see. I don't know what to expect from him. I never do, to be quite honest with you. You know, if I say he went 4 innings and gave up 5 runs, I don't think people would be shocked. If I say he went 5 innings and 2 runs, people wouldn't be shocked. If he goes 6 innings, people might be a little like, oh, little. Whoa, really? Might be a little shocked. But that is the situation we're in right now. He's well over his innings limit, or innings that he's pitched. It's clear that he gets gassed quicker than most pitchers. It's just a matter of pitching against the Marlins and being smart about your efficiency with your pitches. Like Nolan McLean was a master yesterday in pitching efficiency with the pitch count. It was insane. He had like 50 pitches in his 6th inning. It was insane. You got to be a little bit more efficient with your pitches. You don't have to strike, and Clay Holmes is not a big strikeout guy. You got to pitch a little to contact. You have to. Like Stowers is their big home run guy. They're not going to hit a lot. Like they could hit a lot of home runs, but they're not a big home run hitting team without him in the lineup. You got to get quick outs. You can't go 0-2 and then nibble. That's Clay Holmes' problem. That is Senga's problem, and that has been Manaea's problem. These guys, they get into good counts, pitching counts, and they get hitters in favorable counts, and they end up going 3-2. You know, they'll end up walking him on unfavorable counts, and that's how their pitch count goes up. There's too much nibbling with Clay Holmes and Manaea, and especially Senga. So the sweep of the Philadelphia Phillies means absolutely nothing if you don't take care of business against the Miami Marlins. They should not split this series. If they split this series, it's a failed homestand. All that work you did in that Philly series means absolutely nothing. You got to win 3 out of 4 against the Miami Marlins at the minimum. You're better than them. You're playing your best ball of the year, in my opinion. 3 out of 4 is, in my opinion, the least they need to do. You got to go 6-1 in this road trip in this homestand. You have to. 6-1 is what we need. This will probably really put a damper on the Reds' possibility of catching us for the wild card. Because they're not playing well at all. They just got killed by the Dodgers. And by the time we face the Reds, that series shouldn't matter too much. Now, obviously, the Reds, similar to what the Mets did with the Phillies, if the Reds sweep us, well, you kind of have a conversation now with a little less than, 21 games to go by that point. You still got 3 weeks of games, and they might be a little bit closer where they could do something, but I think the Reds are done. I don't think they're good enough. I never thought they were good enough. As bad as the Mets played, they never caught the Mets. So, oh well. But the Mets can't have the Phillies series not mean nothing. Because, again, you split this series against the Marlins, that Phillies series meant nothing. All that momentum, all that excitement that you got from the fan base, packing Citi Field on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, means absolutely nothing if you split against the Marlins and then you head to Detroit, who has not played well over this stretch, but they're still Detroit. They're a really good team. They got great pitching. So they cannot actually screw this up. All the good mojo, all the good momentum that they have, all the fan base back on track and basically back on the bandwagon here. There's a lot of people who jumped off. We were only talking about this a week ago, that people were talking about the Mets are done, which I never got on board with, because I didn't believe if you continue to hold on to a playoff spot, it's not over. And there was some of you in the comments, and listen, I'm not faulting you for that. I understand how you felt. Like, they seemed like it was over. But when you never relinquish the playoff spot as bad as you were, it's not over until you finally lose a playoff spot, and now you got to fight back. So they have an opportunity here to completely bury the Reds by the time they face them. It's a 4.5 game lead now. Hopefully by the end of this homestand, you're up 6, maybe 7 games on the Reds, and that series is probably not going to mean very much. All you got to do is take a game in that series, and you'll be okay. Similar to what the Phillies needed to do against the Mets, and they failed. Boo-hoo for them. So, with the crybaby Phillies, because that's what they are now, crying about everything, bitching and moaning, you would think this team is not making the playoffs, is not leading the division. They look like a bunch of babies. Everything was a problem. They came up very small in a series. They could have buried the Mets in this division, and they could have sailed to a division title. Now they play Atlanta, who plays the Mets and Phillies hard, but the Phillies are better than the Braves. But the Braves play the Phillies and the Mets hard. You hope the Braves, hey, I'm doing the chop, because we're rooting for the Braves here all of a sudden. Like, when do we ever say that? Well, let's go Braves. Braves country, baby. Let's go. Beat those Phillies. Because I do think I'd be shocked if the Mets don't take 3 out of 4 here. I think that they know how important these games are. The Mets like to play down to their competition, but I do feel like the Mets turned a new leaf after this Philly series. They showed me something I didn't think they had. Even a guy who was pessimistic or somewhat optimistic that they're going to remain in the playoffs somehow, some way, even by a thread, they were going to make this playoffs. It felt like they turned a new leaf, and that they're finally playing the way we always thought they would play. And I think that's going to continue. I think this is a situation here where you got to dominate this series. Like, there shouldn't be a question. None of these games should be a question. None of them. You got one of your phenom prospect pitchers pitching tomorrow. You got Clay Holmes, who's had his best start in 3 months. Let's go. I'm sick and tired of playing down to our competition. There is no time to waste here. This is an opportunity that the Mets gave themselves, being back in this division by sweeping the Phillies. The only way to be back in this division is to sweep them. You did that. That is job number 1. Job number 2 of this homestand, the second leg of this homestand, is to make the Phillies series mean something. Because it means something right now. Because you just swept them, we're riding high. But you can't lose today. You lose today, you better win the next 3. Win today, make it a laugher, right? Everybody would like to go to bed early. Win the ball game. You win multiple games in a row, 4 games in a row. You hope that the Braves take care of business against the Phillies, and you add another game. Remember, we're not 4 games out, we're 3 games out. Our boys in the orange and blue have the tiebreaker over the Phillies. So we're only 3 games out, technically. Not what it says as 4 games out. That's kind of a lie. Even though mathematically it's correct, we all know that if we tie the Phillies, we win the division. So with that said, guys, the New York Mets against the Miami Marlins at Citi Field. Clay Holmes on the mound. Mets lineup red hot, scoring over 7.5 runs per game. Winners of 3 straight. Sweeping of the Philadelphia Phillies. Crybaby Phillies are crying all the way back down the turnpike, Mets fans. Mets still got a job to do in this homestand. 3 out of 4 is a minimum. If the Mets can sweep a homestand, I would not be shocked to say, I would be very confident to say that the Mets will be within one game of the Philadelphia Phillies. I truly feel like the Phillies I think the Mets kind of broke them a little bit. And I do think the Mets are going to be within a game of the Philadelphia Phillies by the end of this homestand. With that said, guys, enjoy the game. Let's go, Mets. Beat those Marlins. The hell with the Phillies. We're coming for you. And enjoy the game, guys. Have a great night. Let's go, Mets.
Seven train rumble, headed to the field. Orange and blue vibes, the energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, repping both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire misunderstood. Hear 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pre